I think when you look at the future of our young people, I think everyone will admit that effort has to be put in by the adults to help them get on the right path and be good young citizens as they grow up. And that starts at the schools. We don't have to spend a lot of time understanding that education is extremely important. Education also means that the students have to be there. And so if they are going to be exposed to what they need to succeed in the future and be supported by caring, understanding parents, then effort has to be made to see that they have the best experiences possible in school. I've learned as the district attorney and be involved in the business for a long time that we have to reach out at the youngest age that we can to give those students, those young people, the support that they need. I personally believe that if they're in school, there's less opportunities for them or less chance for them to stray, to get involved with the law enforcement and ultimately into the juvenile justice system. So if we can keep kids in school, we know what research shows, that if they're out of school, bad things happen. They happen. So it's not only that they're depriving themselves of a meaningful learning experience, good socialization, they're out with other young people who also are not in school. And so they don't have the values that the young students have with the support of their parents and their communities by staying in school. So they're out. And the more they're out, the harder it is to come back. So I just made a decision that I was going to invest resources in my office to try to get the kids back in school where they have a better chance of succeeding than if they're on their own. Research is so clear that really the first indicator of delinquency for a young student, a young person, is truancy. And that begins the bad choices, the bad paths that students take. And if we wait until they're seniors in high school, it's going to be very difficult to change what is a behavior that they have adopted, whatever it may be, even if they're not involved in crime. Even if they're not involved in crime, they're still not enhancing their abilities to succeed, and you're going to have problems. They're going to be at the lower end of the economic, scales. They're not going to have the training or skills to get anything. They're going to be low-income workers unless they just become outright criminals. And so truancy is that first indicator. So it's extremely important, I believe, for us to invest. And we cannot rely solely on the schools and solely on the parents. We need them. But law enforcement, which I am a member of, we have a role. And I have chosen to devote those resources, and I devote more resources than any other district attorney in the state of California to it, to try to keep kids in school, to hopefully expose them to, the good part. And we've had a lot of testimonials from parents and children that thanking us for holding their feet to the fire and making them go to school. California has a mandatory school attendance participation, and that mandate is placed on the parents to see that your kids go to school up until they hit the statutory age when they're on their own. We receive a couple thousand referrals from our school districts on students who are truant, who it hasn't worked with the teachers talking to them, the principals, the school attendance review officers or whatever. The letters haven't worked. So then we call them in. We don't prosecute them. But not very many people say no when the district attorney says, we want you to come in. And so the parents can be prosecuted, and the kids actually can go into the juvenile arena. We bring them in, and these are mediations, and we do rough about 100, 150 mediations a month. No one knows that. I mean, people don't pay attention to that. My attorneys, these are professionals who have been in the business a long time. They care about young people. We bring the parents in. We bring the student in. If we need an interpreter, we bring an interpreter in. We bring the school official in with all the records. And they're going on, by the way, right now in my office. They are doing that. And so the door is closed, and my deputy district attorney, and I have 2 full-time deputy district attorneys. That's all they work with are truants. They're not doing murders, they're not doing burglaries or anything. And that's significant resources right there. We have clerical support. We have investigative aides that will go out and track down the parents, make sure they come. And so we schedule over 1,000, 1,500 a year. And this is a mediation hearing where we try to find out, why aren't you going to school? And we sit down and talk it out, and it is amazing what we would find. We have found that some students just aren't motivated, bored to death, and then we try to work with that. We have others who have fears of gangs, and so we work with that, and we get them in, working with the school districts, into a different school, a different environment. It could be health issues. It could be clothing issues, that they feel embarrassed because of the clothing they're wearing. It could be an individual teacher that they're having difficulties with. And so we work through all of that. Our object isn't to prosecute them, it's to get them back to school. And our success rate is amazing after that phase. We have probably a 6 or 7% no-show out of, say, 100 a month. 6 or 7 don't show, that's not bad. And so our success rate is remarkable, and we get improved attendance because they are gently told that, and the parents are there, you have got to work to get your kids to school. And we tell the student, you've got an obligation to be there, and you don't want your parents to get in trouble, do you? So if that works, great. And again, but there's still another band of youngsters that don't go, or parents who don't really expend the effort to get their kids in school. So we may go back again, we may call them in. And by the way, we have progress reports now. And the courts, I have worked with the courts, they have assigned a judge. If that doesn't work, then they can go to truancy court. And they're compelled to go to truancy court. And we can file criminal charges against the parents for their failure to work to get their kids in school. They just wash their hands of it and let the kids run, loose. And we can also take the kids and put them in before the judge in truancy court. We relish when they succeed. And I've gone down in the halls of my office and at my truancy unit, they'll have newspaper clippings. Yay, hooray. And the defense lawyer also has it. This is a student who made it. And when we have some student who is out of school, hasn't been participating, on the verge of joining gangs, male or female, and we intervene and we're able to get that kid going, and when they graduate and get their degrees, or we then learn that they're going on to college, that is the good news. And that's what we really celebrate. And those kind of good stories, fortunately, there's enough of them to keep us going, because you can get very discouraged sometimes.